Hi everyone that is with us and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. This webinar is being recorded and we will start shortly because we haven't had many that registered and a couple have actually are not able to attend. So we will get started so we don't hold you up. So I'll start with some housekeeping for you and then we'll hand over. Please feel free, because there's not many of us here, to use this time with Beck to ask your questions. If you want to turn your cameras on, please feel free to turn your cameras on so we can see all your lovely faces. And also, if you have any questions at all, we might even be able to get you to unmute yourself and go from there. But I'll just run through some other housekeeping and then I'll hand over to Beck. So hi everyone, as I said, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Ange Headlam and I am the Membership and Community Coordinator here at Diabetes Australia. Today's webinar is with Rebecca McPhee. Some of you may know, Beck runs a lot of our webinars and is also in Diabetes Connect answering your questions. So please, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, whether it's related to the topic, which is on keeping food journals and tracking, and whether that helps with your diabetes management, please put them in the Q&A or the chat area, whichever you can see, and I'll keep an eye on those and sing out to Beck if there are any in there that she hasn't seen. So it is wonderful to see you all here today. As I said, please feel free to turn on your cameras. We haven't got a large group, so it can be nice and interactive. Ask your questions, pop your hand up. And as I said, it is being recorded and it will be available in Diabetes Connect in the coming days. So I'll just go through a short acknowledgement of country and then hand over to Beck. Diabetes Australia acknowledges the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the traditional owners and custodians of this country. Today, I'm coming to you from Nipaluna country, Hobart, of the Palawa people in Lutruwita, Tasmania. We recognise their connection to land, waters, winds and culture. We pay the utmost respect to them, their cultures and to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us today. We recognise that Australia is made up of hundreds of different Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander groups, each with their own histories, culture, language and belief systems. Their relationship with country remains of utmost importance, as it is the foundation for culture, family and kinships, songlines and languages. Diabetes Australia is committed to improving health outcomes for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people affected by diabetes and those at risk. So I will now hand over to Beck. And please, as I said, ask any questions, pop your hand up, use a little raise hand, pop your questions in the chat or Q&A. We're here to help, so please use this time and get your questions answered. And now I'll hand over to Beck.
Thanks, Ange, and lovely to see everyone. And I do recognise a lovely familiar face. I see Marie. You always have a nice background. Every time and Deb, I've seen you before, Deb, as well. Hello. Every time I do these webinars, I keep forgetting to change my background. So, yeah, I must do that next time. Look, today it seems like a really simple topic, talking about food diaries and food journals, and it doesn't have to necessarily be about food, and we'll come to that point. But it's a really interesting area because it can really teach us a lot about ourselves and as to why we may not be managing our diabetes the best possible way, or our weight or whatever. Before I go into some tips and tricks and a little bit about the research as to the benefits of keeping a journal, does anyone keep a journal? What have you found? I'm really interested. I mean, you can pop it in the chat or you can go off mute because we don't have too many people today. But I really like to know your experience with journaling and what you've discovered.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
No? You can?
Is that you, Karen?
Karen, it is, yes. Karen Holland, yes.
Hi, Karen. Yeah, lovely to have you on board. And yeah, tell us a bit about your experience.
Well, I do it because I've only been diagnosed with type 1 for 10 months. So
wow.
I still do a journal because I go back to the diabetes educator and everything. And I do it as well just to I'm very intrigued to see the way it all works, which there's no set way really sometimes. It's just your body. So, yeah, so I'm still keeping it just to make sure. And I suppose, I think I'm always within range. I'm over 90% of the time in range. So, yes.
Do you think that the journaling is one of the reasons why you're in the range, because you're keeping on track of things?
I think so. I suppose what I would like to know, and it's probably not the topic today, but just with your different carbs, I've been trying to find books on the better carbs that are long lasting, not your quick reaction ones.
Well, I can for you, Karen, today, and what we'll do is after this call, I often send Ange some resources to send you all. So you're talking about the low GI carbs. I can definitely send you a list and extensive
Excellent.
information about that. Not a problem at all. And I can guide you to, with the members online forum, the resources that you have access to. So I'm just going to write that down because it won't be the topic of discussion, but I think what you've highlighted, Karen, is really good, that you've probably noticed trends in blood sugars on the days where you've eaten, let's say, higher GI blood sugars,
Yes.
you don't need high GI blood sugars,
Yep.
high GI foods,
Carbs,
the relationship between your blood sugars. So I think that's a fantastic
yes.
Relationship you've noticed, and it's actually in line with what the research says. There was a study done in 2020. It was in regards to weight loss, but I think you could plug in any condition. But the people who kept a diary for at least 6 days straight lost twice as much weight. So I think even if it was from diabetes, I think people's blood sugars would be better because of those 6 days recording, looking at patterns, looking at trends. Yeah, and you know, gone were the days years ago where often people might feel a bit intimidated by doing a food diary because you feel like you get it going to the school principal and you feel like a naughty school child and it's going to be red penned. That's not what journaling is all about at all. It's about us trying to find out what's going on and how we can get the best outcome. Let me just write that down. So GI, low GI list. So I don't
Will you send that
forget.
to everybody?
I will, yes.
Oh, great.
So
Thank
even
you.
if there's a specific question, was that you, Marie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though there's a specific question, I'll send it to all of you. So then you've got that. And also the website I did with the last webinar, there is a website from Sydney University where you can go, I use it all the time, and go on the search engine to find out specific foods and what their GI value is. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background when I send the email of what GI is. We don't want to get too into the numbers, but it's good to have that little understanding. And then when you go on the Sydney Uni website, you might think, oh, what's sweet corn? Is sweet corn low GI? You type in sweet corn. What about rolled oats? Type it in and you will find out whether it's high, low or medium GI. That can be a really useful resource. Does anyone else journal, or do you feel that you've come onto this call to think, oh, maybe there's some things going on, maybe I need to go back to keeping a bit of a diary, and then you might have a question of what do I record, because it's not just food. I've got a lot of tips and tricks I will share, but who finds that they feel a need to get back on track with journaling? Are you currently doing it, like Karen?
Yeah, I use the Easy Diet Diary.
Fantastic.
And I primarily use it to get my carbs, my carb count for my dosing. And it also has the facility to put in my own recipes. So then I can, you know, once I've made that one recipe, I can keep going back to that and not have to try and remember or work out what my carbs are. But I think I don't look enough, I don't think, at the protein and the fat in the Easy Diet Diary. So I'd like to, focus more on that, I think, or focus some on that. Yeah,
look, it's a really good point, Deb. And Deb, you're the one that gave me the beautiful recipe of moussaka.
Yeah.
Thank you. Keep sending recipes. Yeah, look, I think that's a really good point, because what we can do is break down this discussion of diarising to, first of all, the macronutrients. So like Deb said, you know, if you're carb counting with type 1, really important, or if you've got type 2, it can really give you an understanding as to maybe you're not having enough carb or too much. But the second part of that is if we find that we're not satisfied with our meals, maybe there's not enough protein. And so an interesting exercise, like Deb's saying, is, let's say you're looking at the trends and thinking, okay, that Monday I was snacking like crazy in the afternoon and I had my low GI sourdough. What's going on? And then you think, oh, I had a small piece of ham on my sandwich, and that gave me 2 grams of protein, as opposed to the Sunday where I had 2 eggs and that gave me 13 grams of protein. Oh, and I didn't snack in the afternoon. That's an interesting trend. So that's a really good point that you've made, Deb, that getting the macronutrients right. And when I say macronutrients, we get our carbs. Yep. And like Karen said, she's really interested in looking at those lower GI carbs, and that is crucial because most of them are high in fiber, so that's going to sustain you, but it's not enough alone. Then we need to tailor it with, pair it with some protein, and then also some good fats, because we know that good fats or fat of any kind, whether it's olive oil, can slow down that digestion to form sugar in the blood. So if you get our macros right, that's the first and foremost for really getting our blood sugars and weight under control. And if we find that, you know, we've got the macros right, but there's just something's not going on right, there are other things we can record in our diary. So other than nutrition, does anyone keep a record? And other than nutrition and blood sugars and maybe doses of insulin, does anyone record any other things in their diary?
Exercise.
Yeah, fantastic. Who said that?
Yeah.
Karen again.
Yeah, great, Karen. Well done. And particularly with type 1, isn't it interesting? The day I exercise, what is the trend with the blood sugars? And unfortunately, we know with type 1, there is a formula that we can follow, but it's not black and white, because we know, as you rightly said, our body's all very different, but keeping exercise is really important, definitely. Any other points? What about, does anyone ever look at trends in terms of how we're feeling emotionally? So if we're feeling stressed or bored or tired, has anyone ever looked at the interrelationships between how we feel and what we eat?
No.
Yeah,
What are your
I
thoughts
found
about that?
something. Hello, Rebecca. I found
Chad.
something that we do normal exercise, but we can't keep on doing exercise whole day. So, but we can do a lot of things whole day, like incidental household work.
Yes.
So they add up together and give something how much calories we have burned. But the important thing is, what is the start point of keeping a journal diary? See, I keep all records for 5 to 6 years
Mhm.
each day. So my biggest problem hurdle comes, then what is the ideal thing we have to take? See, uh, uh, daily requirement of calories,
Mhm.
and based on that, how much we should eat. And if we are eating something high calorie food, lots of carbs, lots of proteins, lots of fats. So these kind of balances we can keep on doing, but I'm going astray. Astray means my dietitian says that keep the carb under control. So focus on protein. I'm focusing on protein, but that focus, I'm maintaining whatever it is minimum requirement, person of my height and my age and my weight and all these things, and based on that, compute calories, how much is the daily requirement, and what I should be eating.
Mhm.
So problem is coming, if I focus on proteins, my carbs and other things go low. And another horrible thing is I don't feel that I'm fatigued. The things, if we keep busy doing exercise, we are very fine.
Mhm.
And if you keep carbs under control, then also sugar goes up just because we have not done any exercise.
Mm-hmm. That's an
Exercise
interesting.
is a must.
Mm,
So problem is balancing. Balancing, I just don't know. See, I'm keeping carb on the very, very much control level low,
mm-hmm.
but I'm getting calories, so I'm wondering those calories are coming from where? So
Mm-hmm.
obviously they should be coming from saturated fats and other thing or fats. So mostly fats is the another biggest contributor of calories,
Mm-hmm.
but then we don't know. Because if we indulge in fats, then we go into some bad fats and good fats and these.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, I am trying to balance carb, but I am finding my fats levels are beyond requirement. Dietitian says keep it 60, I get 78, I get 80. Now, what is the horror happens if I increase on my fats intake? Because
Mm-hmm.
I take my Indian food, daily vegetarian food, but
Mm-hmm.
there is something about the carb and there is something about the fat.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know energy is coming from where because carb is very low.
I would it's thank you so much for sharing, Sharad. And you said your fasting levels are high. What I
No,
would
no, no, no,
suggest.
no, no.
Hmm?
Excuse me. My fasting levels I'm maintaining by the tablets that metformin.
Oh, gotcha. So you've got the oral high glycemic agent. Yep, the metformin.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
on diabetes too. Sorry, sir. I didn't mention.
mhm. That's okay. I would say, so I can really give you a tailored answer because I really like to have a look at specifically what you're eating. I can provide my email address at the end. And if you can send what you've just been saying and what you're eating, I'd be only too happy to have a look at it in more of a tailored way rather than in the group discussion, if you're okay with that. So I'm going to put it in the chat box in a minute. And then, Sharad, I can personally answer your question in regards to, you said it's all about balance, and I think you're 100% right. It's about balancing, whether it's what we're eating, how we're feeling, the exercise. But would you be happy with that if I give you my email and then I can personally answer your question?
I'll be very, very happy. But I would also like you to give some more insight about this is what I am working like, and these are the figures I am getting data. My fasting level is within 7 most of the time. The
Okay.
problem comes if I do 4 times check, 5 times check like a before food, after
Mm-hmm.
2 hours of food,
Yep.
I find sometimes the level crossing 10.5, 10.
Yep.
So,
So, yep. So in that
problem
situation,
is next day it is all fine. So I am in mystery. What is happening in between?
mm, so I think it's good that you're monitoring your levels. So in that email to send to me, I would put your blood sugar levels and also what you're eating, which actually brings me to my next point. There's kind of a generic couple of questions I provide when you're looking at diarising. So Sharad, I would definitely put your levels in. There will be some sort of pattern we can pick up. I say you can't see yourself with your own eyeballs. It often takes an outsider to have a look, to look at the trends. It's like when I'm writing for Diabetes Australia, I'm so far into it, I don't notice my own errors. So I have to send it to Ange and the rest of the team to have a look at it because I don't know what I'm doing
Yeah,
really. I've
okay.
written it. You know what I mean? So you need someone else to have a look. So Sharad, I'm sure, and you're very knowledgeable, you know what you're doing. I think I can just have a little look at the trends for you, the blood sugars and the food. But here are the 5 sort of key questions is, first of all, what are you eating? What are you eating? So remember, it's not about criticizing what you do. No one is normal. No one is perfect. We all do things for, sometimes we don't even know why we do it, but food's so available now. So a lot of us can abuse food or whatever it is. So what are you eating? Write it down. And even more specifically, particularly if you have type 1, is portions. Am I actually measuring them out or am I free pouring my granola? Okay. So what am I eating? The next question is, when am I eating? So timings, we know. When are you eating? Are you eating? I had a client yesterday who said, I skip breakfast And then I end up eating a muffin at the cafe with a large latte, and then I'm full, but then by 3 o'clock, I get really hungry again. And so it was an interesting conversation when I started to break it down rather than just what you're eating, when are you eating? Oh yeah, the days I skip breakfast, that's when the wheels fall off. How could you not go for a muffin when your blood sugars are really low and you're hungry? So when are you eating? So timings. How are you eating? So how? When I say how, it's are you eating in front of the telly or in front of the laptop, which I do for lunch, but does that affect the portion? So if it doesn't, if you keep to that portion, fine. But sometimes I call it calorie amnesia, or it could be carb amnesia. You don't remember what you've eaten if you're actually quite distracted. So my client yesterday had a goal of going back to sitting at the dinner table because when he's Ubering, driving Uber, it's just and in his glove box, bag of nuts, bag of dried fruit. Could you imagine? So, you know, how we are eating. So do we need to sit at the table? Do we need to have less distraction? How are we eating? Are we using a knife and fork? Slowing that mindful eating. The next question is, why am I eating? So this is one where we all can relate to. We commiserate and celebrate with food and alcohol. So why are we eating? Are we eating because we're bored, stressed, okay, or hungry? So as I said at the start, is looking at, like Deb was saying, maybe I need to go and have a look at my protein. Are the macronutrients right? Am I getting enough protein? Am I getting enough low GI, high fiber carbs? So really looking at why you're eating. If it's not hunger, then it's going to be head hunger, psychological. And we all do that. So keeping a diary, and I can send some examples. Let's say you've got one column where you write your food, and then you can do mood. You can give yourself a rating from 0 to 10, 0 being really low mood, 10 jumping out of my skin, feeling great. And it'll be interesting to look at the relationships, the days where you get a low mood or stressed. Stress could be another number. So 0, no stress, 10, really, really stressed. It depends. If you've got more of a low mood, you might do that. Or if you're stressed, you might record stress. So let's say the day you've got a low mood of 2, what do you think the food choice is going to be like? I don't think it's going to be healthy. If you're more of a stress person and you're recording stress on a scale of 0 to 10, or it could be low, medium, high, you don't have to use numbers, it's just a rating. If you're getting 10s all the time, imagine where you're eating, why you're eating, how you're eating. Everything's going to be just hoovered in. And that can really give you insight into what's going on, particularly, and you know, 99.999% of people who come on this call, like you people, know what to do. You're very knowledgeable. So then if you know what you're doing, it's, well, why and how? That's where the diary might come in handy, where you can really work out what's getting in the way of me managing my diabetes and or weight. And it could be the why. That's what you might focus on. The days I'm stressed, or the days I have poor sleep, are the days where the wheels fall off. So you don't have to keep going back and counting carbs. You already know it. More than a new grad dietitian, you might need to focus on those not so good days, the 10% of the time. And honestly, most people I see only have not so good days 10% of the time. But who can relate to this? You have a bad day, and what happens? You look at the diary. Can anyone tell me this? You look at the diary, you've had a not so good day. What's the interpretation?
I eat chocolate.
Yeah, I failed. I'll keep Cadbury's in business. Deb, you're nodding your head. Get off mute. Tell me, talk to me. It's exactly right, Marie. That's what we do.
Yep, definitely. You know, and as a type 1, I try not to use the failure word. I try not to. We've just come through the cyclone, so it's been a very stressful week for me, and I know my numbers are all over the place, and I can pinpoint exactly why, because I've stress eaten all week.
Absolutely. I mean, you're in a natural disaster. Absolutely. Yep. And not use the word failure. I 100% agree, because people, there's a difference between relapse and lapse. And whenever I see a client and they say, oh, Rebecca, I failed, I buggered up that day. And then, like Mary said, I just went and ate chocolate. And I thought I may as well just finish the block because I've just started and it's really bad. And then I'll start again on Monday. People see that one day as a relapse. Is it a relapse or is that one day a lapse? It's a lapse, but it's our interpretation of the situation where we think I've buggered it up. If we say I've buggered up Monday, can I say that? Oops.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
Too late. I've messed up Monday. Oh, who cares? I've messed up Monday, and then you think I'll just ruin the rest of the week. That's when you'll gain the weight because you've had 7 days of eating chocolate. But if you say I've messed up Monday and so I ate a block of chocolate, but you get back on track the next meal, there will not be weight gain. Yes, you may have a day of crazy blood sugars, but can you see the difference? So just like Deb said, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's not failure. Yep. It's not you who has failed. It's that there's not the right strategy. So people don't fail, the strategy fails. People don't fail, the strategy fails. So you might learn to write that down. I have clients who do keep their diaries, and often they'll have that on the front of their diary as a mental reminder, because the biggest barrier resides in our head. I guarantee it most of the time. So if we have a habit, remember habits don't change overnight. If we have ingrained habits of taking things personally and always thinking I failed, I'm just never going to get this right, then the wheels are always going to fall off. But if we can be kind to ourselves, and it's not tea and sympathy, oh, there, you poor thing. I'm not being condescending. I'm actually just being realistic about it, because most beliefs are not true. They're not facts. They're beliefs in your head. That you failed, incorrect. You've had a not so good day. Guess what? That's because you're human. So we should expect the not so good days, but it's how we interpret that situation and what we do with it. So diaries, journals can be a little piece of gold to really teach us to figure out what those barriers are, what those roadblocks are, and how we can change it. So really, you know, when you're knowledgeable about carbs and protein, always think the what, the when, the how, and the why, and also where are you eating? So I'd much prefer someone to eat chocolate when they're happy and in company or watching a movie. Nothing wrong with that, compared to eating chocolate when you're feeling down or stressed. Natural disaster, that's an exception. Like just, you know, the whole, like, don't even need to, just keep alive and keep safe, right? But when we're looking at treats, it's important to enjoy those and be of good mood, compared to when we do it because we've ruined the day, so to speak, and then we just, oh, can you hear? There's a garbage collector just outside my door, so excuse the noise.
Beck, I always choose to, when I'm intentional about having a treat, I always say to myself, I'm going to enjoy this, because if I don't, then I feel like I've wasted a treat, if that makes sense.
I get it. Absolutely. I get it. I get it. Do you know, I do that, you know, at Christmas time when you've got lots of events and people are inviting you to things, and I'm a cheeseaholic, and if someone has a cheese platter and something I don't like, I think I'm not going to waste that. I'm going to wait till I have the cheese that I really like, or that chocolate or whatever. So yeah, it's a really good way of thinking, because you're saying you deserve it and you're looking for quality, and really indulge and enjoy that. Absolutely. Regrets are a waste of time. So, you know, when we're having our treats, to enjoy them. Definitely.
I've only been diagnosed for 10 months, but since I've been diagnosed, I'm not game enough to have chocolate or donuts or anything, because, yeah, you've got to give yourself so much insulin or whatever. So, and plus you go sky high and then plummet. So
Yeah.
I
So
always say
who's
to my
speaking?
husband,
Is it Auntie Karen? Is it?
yeah,
Is it you, Karen?
yeah,
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I haven't had anything like that since I've been diagnosed, whereas I was a very sweet tooth.
Wow.
before that. Yes. So every now and again I said, I really would love one of those, but I never have it.
Karen, can I encourage you? That feeling will pass.
Oh, well, that's what I thought. If I've had it for years and years, yes.
But it's a very normal response to being early diagnosed. And for me personally, if I do the head stuff and say I can't eat whatever, I get fixated on that one thing, and then when I do give into it, I guess I overindulge. So my strategy is that I love chocolate, and so my strategy is that I have a block of chocolate. I break it up into 4 squares because I know 4 squares is a certain number of carbs, and that's what I need to dose for. And put it in the freezer so it's not readily available. And I will treat myself to that treat once a week.
Oh, okay.
And I appreciate what you're saying. You know, we have to dose for it, and then you think, oh, that's more insulin. You know, the goal, probably for you as well, is to use as little insulin as you can in a healthy way. But you know, we also need to enjoy life, and if that means a donut, even once a month. But when you choose to have that donut, sit with it, cut it up, savor every mouthful, but know that you have to dose for it and enjoy it to the nth degree. And actually, what I've found is that I actually do enjoy those treats more than I used to when I had free rein to them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. That's really great words of wisdom. How do you feel now, Karen, hearing that, really some pearls of wisdom there?
Yes, pretty good. But yes, I'm just wondering whether because I know if I have white bread or anything, I go sky high and then just go have a low. So I sort of stay clear of it. But anyway, maybe not give myself as much insulin, or I don't know how that'd go. But anyway.
Well, Karen, you know, the first thing is I'll give you the low GI list. I'm going to let you all in on a secret that some of our favourite treats aren't that high GI. In fact, chocolate is low GI, and if you add nuts to it, lowers it even more. So as Deb said, you know, her having 4 squares is not going to give you the spike that you honestly think it would. And even donuts, although it's white base, it's very high in fat because it's fried. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be better than having a handful of rice crackers.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so think about chocolate is basically low GI. Okay. And I'm saying that just for people who go,
you shouldn't have said that, Beck. Thanks.
But you know, yeah, look, it's not as bad as what you think. And exactly like Deb did. Like when you're feeling a bit low and confident, be planned. So you won't go, okay, I'm going for that. Well, first question is, what do I really, really miss the most, right? And let's say it is chocolate or your favourite donut. But then, just like Deb has done, do your homework, know the carb amount, try an experiment. There's no failure in an experiment. Okay, I'm going to give myself X amount of insulin for this treat, but because it's got fat and all this, I'm not really sure. Try the experiment. And then the next time you might have to adjust. So remember, this is all about experimentation and there's no failure. And exactly like Deb said, you've got to enjoy life. So, and it's interesting. I had a client many years ago who has type 1 diabetes, and she was of the old school who it was, and those of you who have had diabetes for years, it's just horrible, the sort of advice, and no disrespect. I mean, we've moved forward, but it was always the red light foods, these bad foods you can't have. And so whenever she'd go out for dinner with her family, well-intentioned, they'd say, oh, well, you can't eat this. You can't eat the dessert. You can only have the dinner. And she'd say in her head, yep, can't have the dessert tonight. I won't even have potato at dinner. And then, as exactly like Deb said, as soon as you put a restriction on yourself, what's the first thing you think about? You rebel. And one of the first words we learn as a toddler is no. And you really rebel. So she'd not only order an entree, she'd order the main with potato, and then she'd have dessert. and then her levels would be skyrocket, and then she'd just ruin the rest of the week. So we did an experiment that the next time she went out, first of all, we had to work on her not reacting to the family. So she came up with a strategy in her mind. It's not that I can't have it, I choose. So she chose her most favourite dessert, which was, I think it was chocolate mud cake or something. And she's very clever with the carb counting. She knew how much. And just like Deb said, she mindfully ate it, saved every bite, and she couldn't believe it. She was so excited when she came back to see me. She said, I only got halfway through it because it was just so sickly sweet. Because I was so focused on it and didn't hoover it up. And then she was able to finally enjoy her favorite treat without the guilt, without the skyrocketing blood sugars. Yep. So you'll find that when you choose these treats, because Karen, you've cut so much out, it will be very intensely sweet for you. But when you eat it mindfully, like the full squares of chocolate Deb has, it will be so pleasurable, and it won't be as, it will be quite, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Let us know how you go with your experiment.
Yes.
And the other thing I was going to say with food diaries, sometimes it depends on your life, but if we record what we eat and how we feel at the end of the day, sometimes we miss big gaps, big pieces of content. So if you find you're thinking about going back to diarising, first of all, just do it intensely for a week, and that's it. Just because people feel that I have to do it all the time, then you're not accurate. So it's about being really accurate and consistent. And so take that diary around with you, or you might have the app that you could use, all sorts of apps out there, and then record all the time. So then you're not missing pieces of information, particularly, if you've got type 1 and you just can't figure out the pattern. Sometimes it takes a little bit of detective work, but I would not wait till the end of the day, because my memory is like a sieve. And I even have my 4-year-old reminding me of things. That's pretty bad. So just carry the diary with you. Be really mindful for the whole week, and then sit back, and then it's the self-reflection. Or you might take it to your health professional or whoever is in your life to have a look as well, because you're being a detective and you're trying to discover trends. And then after that, like Karen's going to do, I can't wait to hear about it, is then you try experiments. And then you go back and think, oh, was I right there? No, I'll need to do it again. Guilt-free.
Okay.
Yeah. You can also, if anyone has irritable bowel syndrome or any other sort of health issues, you can monitor symptoms as well. So I have many people that I've seen who not only have diabetes but have irritable bowel. And so they also record symptoms, so physical symptoms, to see if there are any patterns, because often if you have irritable bowel, it's going to mess up the blood sugars as well, because there's that sort of stress on the body. So that also, diaries can be a really good opportunity to not just focus on the diabetes. The other thing I was going to say is don't forget about and don't underestimate, like I said, stress, but also sleep, quality and quantity of sleep, but also particularly with type 1, weather. So the temperature, the weather. So if it's really hot, or if there's been alcohol consumed, or any of those things, they can really affect the blood sugars. So if you've done the diary and you've got the portions right, and I don't know what's going on, I'm hypoing all the time, maybe it's the weather, or maybe you need to consider your background insulin, your long acting, and start doing some carb-free meals to see if the dose is right. That's another topic. Yeah. Any other comments? This has been a great discussion, because we all learn from each other. But I find diaries really interesting to pick up patterns. And
what about drink spec? So when you're keeping a diary, like a food journal, should people be, or myself, I don't live with diabetes, but I'm starting back on a health journey. Should you be keeping track of, like, water consumption and stuff? And can that sort of affect, particularly also people living with diabetes, like, with their levels and whatnot? If you're drinking more water or less water, or more coffee, tea, should that also be kept?
I'll say a big fat yes. Does anyone know why? Before I jump in and say it, I'd like to hear from other people, but I'd say definitely to record what you're drinking.
Hydration would affect it if you're
100%.
dehydrated.
Was that you, Karen?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So if we're dehydrated, sometimes we think we're hungry and we're actually thirsty. So that could be the reason why we're over snacking. Dehydration can affect blood sugars, but even with you, Ange, without blood sugars, without diabetes, I know if I'm not drinking enough, I'll tend to maybe eat a bit more, or I'll go for another coffee. And then how do you feel when you have too much coffee? It can actually also affect the appetite. So it can suppress the appetite if you have too much coffee, and then you'll find you're hungry by the afternoon and you don't eat, then you eat too much. So your hydration is a huge one. So not just the water, so seeing how much we need to get. Also, coffees, teas, which can be a disaster with hydration if we have too much. Alcohol as well, but definitely. I don't think I've ever seen any weight management plan that did not push the idea of hydration. And it's also with energy and concentration. Even a slight mild dehydration can affect our concentration and energy levels. So it's a good question, and absolutely yes, particularly if you find that's one area you need to focus on. So for some of you, you might find there are just key areas where you're not going so well with, and that might be portion control. I need to really write down my portions, or it might be hydration, or I need to get back into exercise. Which brings me to my point, I think I've got it saved, is the habit change diary. I'm going to put you on the spot. Ange, did you have it there, or I'm going to see if I can share my screen? Did I save it on my desktop? That is the question. Probably not. Hang on, I'm going to find something for you all. Just 1 minute. Did I save it? Oh dear, I didn't.
You're talking about the habit change diary, the habit tracker? Yeah, I've got that here.
Oh, amazing, Ange. See, she's my wing lady.
Did you want me to share it?
Yes, that'd be lovely. I had the intention of sharing it, and it just didn't happen yesterday. Okay, here we go, guys.
Is the one you're talking about?
Yeah, so this is really good. Like I said before, if everything is going pretty good, but there's just one habit you really want to change, and that might be improving hydration. It might be chocolate minimization days. It might be just doing regular exercise. Okay, and so this habit change diary is all about helping to change a habit and recording this over time, so then it will become automatic. So the first week you work on just one habit, because if we work on too many changes, we get what I call messy head, and then it's just all too much. And it's so common that I see people say, right, I want to go on a health kick and I'm going to do this. I'm going to run 7 days a week. I'm going to eat no carbs and drink 5 litres of water every day. Exaggeration, but often people are very harsh. And then I say, oh, is that realistic given everything going on in your life currently? And they say, oh, no. So pick one habit. So let's just think of one habit like drinking more water, because you know when you drink more water, your portions are better and you snack less. So you just write on week 1, the positive habit is drink more water. And all you do is you tick the day you nailed it. So you might have a goal of drinking 2 litres of water a day, and you tick the day you nailed it. Now, you're not going to get 7 perfect ticks because no one is perfect. When you don't achieve one of those days, my question to you all is, do you leave it blank or do you put a cross? And why?
Leave it blank.
Yeah, I'd leave it blank.
What would happen if you put a cross?
Failure.
That's all you'd see. That's all you would see.
That's right.
Yeah.
You are the weakest link. Goodbye. And then you go, oh my goodness, I failed. And then you just go, let's screw that up and start again next week or maybe next month. So yeah, we leave it blank and you focus on your successes. And at the end of the week, you might think, well, my goal was to have 3 good days of drinking water. You know, you might have 4 good days, you might have 2 good days. Whatever it is, you write the total goal, the total days met, and then maybe some comments. So your comments would be learning. Okay, I realize when I don't take my water in the car, I don't drink enough, for example. The next week, if you find that you haven't really nailed that, you might continue with the hydration, or maybe the next goal might be portion caution. Or like my beautiful example, the beautiful lady that I had as a client many years ago who used to just self-sabotage, for her, it was positive thinking every day. So she had a little palm card. What was it? Oh, I am worth it. That's right. Because she used to say, I'm worthless. Everything's worthless. You know, there's a lot of stuff going in her life, which was very sad. She didn't have the, let's just say, support at home. So she had to really equip her mind with some powerful, positive words. And so her goal was to think, I'm worth it every day. Because when she thought I'm worth it, she wouldn't self-sabotage. So she had to think like that every day. And interestingly enough, the day she got a tick, what do you think her eating habits were like when she was having that positive way of thinking?
Good.
Yeah, her eating habits were bang on. The minute she didn't think like that, especially before she'd go and see the well-intentioned endocrinologist, and often he would sort of red pen things and tell her what to do, then she'd just give up. So she'd practice it in the waiting room. She took this little palm card everywhere to practice. So it may be just a positive thought. You've got to get into that way of thinking, and then you work on the habit change, the behaviors, because the formula is our thinking, okay? So a helpful thinking plus the helpful behavior equals the outcome you want. So what I mean by that is you can't get the outcome of good blood sugar control or weight loss with just having a good habit, doing the right behavior, eating well, drinking more water. The behavior comes from thinking in a certain way. So if you find you're diarising everything, you've got the portions bang on and something's not working, have a think about, what am I saying to myself? Are my thoughts supporting my health habits? What am I saying to myself that drives that behavior? So our positive thinking, and when I say positive thinking, I don't mean Pollyanna, oh, the world's wonderful. You know, the thoughts that you have to have in your mind have to be something that you believe. So, and I had another client who said, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. So she said, it's up to me. Or some people might think, you can do this, whatever. But those thoughts need to support all those behaviors that you know, the carb counting, the exercise. And that's when you'll get the outcome. So does that, yes.
So sorry, I find what works for me, and I don't know for others, is that I have to challenge the negative thought first. So I have to say, you know, if I've got a thought of, you know, this is a terrible day, and I've framed the day and it's, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning, if I don't challenge that thought and say, well, you know, is there truth in that? Is it true or not? And then replace it with you know, the truth, then I find it difficult to simply have a positive attitude. Is it?
100%. You have to challenge it. That's what you absolutely. Absolutely, because what you are doing is you're challenging that thought, whatever it is, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're ready to ruin the rest of the day when we think like that. Definitely. So well done. First of all, you're aware of your thoughts. So that's the first thing. Often I speak to clients and they might not be aware of what they're saying to themselves. So the first step is, are we aware of our conflicting internal dialogue? So you've got awareness, which is brilliant. Secondly, what are you saying to yourself? And you knowing that, you think, geez, I've got bucklers of having a good day if I think like that.
Yep.
And then you're reframing. So cognitive reframing is when we take that thought and reframe it into something that you believe, something that's going to be meaningful. And it might be, some people say, look, it may not, my diabetes may not be great, but it's a work in progress. Because we're not saying, oh, I'm going to be great. I would not buy that. I would be, things aren't great at the moment, but I'm working on it and I have the support. So it's a good point you made. We have to have things that we believe, but often beliefs, like you just said, it's going to be a terrible day, are not truth. It's not truth, like you said. Is that true? Yeah. So yeah, really good. You said that everyone has different ways of how they can reframe their thinking, but awareness, challenge, and then reframe it. Really good. So be aware, challenge it. Is that true? And then reframe it if you can. And some people don't even need words. They may have a picture. I've had people have a visual on their phone or on their fridge. Every time they go to open the fridge, there's this picture. It might be an image of calm waters, or their grandchildren, or a quote, whatever it is, to give you that right way of thinking when you've already got the knowledge. Because if you already know what to do, then it might be the thinking to focus on and putting it into that journal. Because diaries aren't always about food. It might be what is causing me to go for that food. And that's the thinking. Yep.
There's a question in the Q&A, Beck,
Oh,
from
yes.
Joe, and it's just about, does anyone use a phone app to track or journal food?
What do you all use? Good question, Joe.
I use Easy Diet Diary.
Easy Diet Diary. Yep. There's My Fitness Pal.
Is that online, Deb?
Yeah,
That one?
and it's free. Well, there's a
Yeah,
free
what-
version and you can pay for an upgrade, but the free version has everything that I need.
But what's that
Yep.
called again?
Easy Diet Diary.
Easy Diet Diary. Right, I'm going to look at that one myself. Thank you.
Yep. Easy Diet Diary. And My Fitness Pal, exactly like Deb said, there's a free version and there's a paid version. There's always a paid version. Yeah, good question, because your app, it's a great thing because you can just walk around with your phone and quickly record it. It's great.
I put it in my Libra 2 app, like when after I've done my calculations and I've ticked which meal it is, and I actually put down everything that how I came up with that many carbs.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Killing two birds with one stone too. That's great.
And that's where I put my exercise as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. I like that idea. I'm writing them down too. I think I have to write an article for Circle. It's about apps. So thanks, guys. Very good question.
I use Calorie King for looking up the macros and, particularly carbs.
Yeah.
Calorie King's a good one, and he's been around for a long time. Alan Borishuk, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, before apps, showing my age, I used to have the little calorie counter in my dietitian bag, and you'd go around
and the little book.
Oh dear, yes. No, he's come a long way. And then other comments, I can't believe we're almost, gosh, it's gone very fast. Comments or questions? It's been very insightful, actually. I love hearing about people's experiences.
What should your daily carbs actually be if you're on a low carb diet?
How long is a piece of string?
Depend on, okay, yes.
But however, I'm going to
Yes, I've never eaten so many carbs since I've been diagnosed.
Oh.
Oh, so that's the opposite. Normally people say,
No,
I feel like I'm eating air.
I thought I was going to whack on the weight, yes. But anyway,
wow.
yeah.
I guess it's not a one size fits all, Karen, and normally I saw Deb was surprised too that we've been told to eat less, but the definition of a low carb diet is 130 grams or less per day. And when you break that down, that's actually very manageable, right? So you might have breakfast, lunch and dinner of 30 grams at that meal, which might be 2 slices of bread to make a sandwich, fist size of rice or whatever, right? And then maybe a little snack in between of 15 grams, couple of snacks. But you can go, and then low carb can go all the way down to 20 grams like you do in keto. Personally, unless someone has good reason to go that low, should I say agree? Sometimes it works for people, but professionally and personally, I recommend reduced carb, but not to that amount. So you could easily have something like 70 grams and eat very well. A lot of the meal plans I do, if you've seen, there will be about 70 grams a day. But less than 130 grams is reduced carb. So everyone is really different, and I'm happy for you if you want to email me and say, look, this is what I'm eating. What do you think? If it's working for you at the moment, keep going with it. But everyone's different. Some people can handle 30 grams of carb at a meal. Some people go down to about 20 grams, and that 20 grams will be based on a lot of veg, for example. Or you might have a chicken Waldorf salad at lunch, and that medium apple is about 20 grams of carb, and that's where your carb is coming from. And then you got the chicken and the avocado and the lettuce. So everyone's different. But I find personally over 45 grams of carb at a meal will skyrocket the sugars for most people.
And
you're
maybe,
feeding
Karen, I'm not sure. You might be on a fixed dose of insulin as well, so you're
No, I have
eating
to work
you're
it
eating
out.
up to your insulin.
Yeah, I actually have got the other app to work it all out before I actually eat as well. Like I've got to know how many carbs that I actually eat and then give myself the insulin and then have my meal. Yes.
Yeah.
If it's
So
Karen,
you're in control of the amount of carbs that you eat.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
I
Good.
got one query about that. Yeah, how do you know how much carb you should go for? It depends on what kind of work you do.
Mhm.
Active, passive, the sedentary, and these kind of things. Your
Yes.
activity decides how much you should be eating, and also stay within the control of your VGL level, your glucose level, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. So your carb intake, thank you so much, Arnold, for mentioning that, is based on your activity. So if you're type 1 and 18 years old, male, you're going to be eating a lot of carbs, right? But if you're type 1, above the age of 50, more sedentary, a little bit active, maybe need to lose a bit of weight, then the carbs will be significantly less. So it depends on age, sex, activity, metabolism too, because you might have a chronic condition that is affecting your body's ability to metabolize food. So it might be more or less carb. There are really big differences, and that's why I always try to look at people's food diaries personally to then tailor it. But Karen, if you find that you're not comfortable with the amount of carb you're eating, then definitely talk to your HP, a health professional. You can email me, and you might want to cut it down, or if you think it's all right, that's fine. So people are opposite. Some people find they're too hungry and they want more, but they're fearful of spikes in sugars or weight gain. And sometimes it might be more, are they getting enough protein, or maybe they need more carb, or the opposite, maybe you need to reduce it.
So when you spoke before about carbs and protein, is there a ratio that you should stick to?
Again, different for everyone.
Okay.
Different for everyone, but you want to be getting at least 25 grams minimum of protein.
Protein with your carbs.
Yeah, at main meal, so breakfast, lunch, dinner, at least 25 at each meal. I mean, if you're having two large eggs at breakfast, that will give you around 14 grams. That's ample. But you know, your main meals, lunch and dinner, you'd be wanting to get it between about 25 grams, which is very easy to do if you eat fish, chicken, meat. Very, very easy to get the protein in.
Okay.
And you know, you might be supplementing that in between meals with some handful of nuts or something that will give you plant protein. People can overdo the protein big time as well, and any excess is calories, which will be gained as fat, or people get type 1's spike in sugars if they go excessive with protein without factoring in the insulin, which is another whole discussion.
Okay.
Protein's not free. We used to say, oh, free foods like your salads and your proteins. Incorrect. So, yeah. Karen, you've got some really good questions, and it's just nice to hear someone new, and you've got people who've had diabetes for a while helping each other. And please email me or get on the forum. These questions are really, really good, and we'll keep helping you.
Yep. Thank you.
Beck, I find when I'm not necessarily in a hypo, but getting low, oftentimes I crave protein.
How interesting.
Yeah. And I could quite happily sit down and eat a steak.
Isn't it? I only laugh because imagine, you know, because you've been drummed, you know, it's been drummed in your head for how many years about, you know, fast acting glucose, but gnawing on some steak. But isn't it interesting? And maybe is that because your body's, I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. Probably not on a daily basis, but certainly every 2 or 3 days, I crave protein, and I eat a
interesting.
reasonable amount of protein.
Yeah, I find that fascinating.
It's weird.
I know if I
How
have
do you
something
know
Can
too.
I
you need
ask what you
protein?
do for lows?
Sorry.
Can I ask what you do for low numbers? Because I've been getting them in the middle of the night.
There, that's never good.
Mm.
Do you have a CGM?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
wakes me up, 3
So it
o'clock
wakes
in the
you-
morning.
Yeah. So my go-to, especially in the middle of the night, would be a popper, a juice.
Okay.
I find for me that's the quickest, and then I'll follow that up with whatever I can stomach.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, you follow up?
Yeah.
Because I always
Well,
want
it
to go back to
depends.
sleep.
It depends on how. Yeah, I would still follow up. It depends
Definitely.
on how low I go.
Right. What's
Um,
low for you?
Well, anything under 4, I've got my alarm set, but I've been 1.9.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
But in that case, I definitely would do the quick acting and then wait the 15 minutes. And if I'm over 4, then I would have something like even a piece of toast or a slice of bread and honey.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. What I did, thinking in the early days, thinking, oh, this is a good hypo treatment. This is a good excuse to have a piece of chocolate. Chocolate is actually one of the
Yeah, well,
worst
you just
things to
learned.
treat a hypo
Yeah.
Is it?
because it's high in sugar, but it's also high in fat. So the
Doesn't
initial
absorb as
isn't
well.
quick enough.
Yep.
Okay.
You need to. Yeah.
That's what I did yesterday. That's why I had the chocolate yesterday. That's why it's the first time I've had chocolate for quite a while. And I
Yeah.
was out. During the day, I had a hypo. I mean, I did have jelly beans with me, but then there was this fabulous fruit shop that I'm aware of that has chocolate coated ginger.
Oh, yum.
So, yeah, that's where I lost my will yesterday and ate chocolate.
But actually, Marie, the crystallized ginger probably would be pretty high GI, like if it was just the
That's what
plain
I-
chocolate.
That's what
Yeah, I
thought,
mean,
yeah.
if you had nothing else, you just shove whatever you can in your mouth,
Yeah.
But with if it's reoccurring those, which you already know, Marie, but if you're getting woken up all the time, have a think about your levels before you go to bed.
Yeah, well, the doctors switched my meds around a bit.
Okay, might take
Like,
a
there
while
was
for that.
one where I was taking 2 at night, so now I'm having 1 at night, 1 in the day. In the
Okay.
morning. But the problem with that is one of them I don't doesn't sit well with me, makes me sick. So I'm a bit worried. That's why I was having them at night instead of the morning. So we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes for testing.
See
But
how
my
you
blood
go.
sugars have been really good. I've
Oh,
gone
good.
from 22% within range to 90% within range.
Well
I
done.
know, it's amazing.
That's
Brilliant.
phenomenal.
CGM,
That's-
that's what's done it, and I can't afford to keep the Dexcom going because I'm type 2 and it's not subsidized.
Ah,
But it's
such
been
a
life
pain.
changing for me
yeah.
because I'm watching
Well
it the whole
done.
time.
Yes.
I know Freestyle are doing a trial at the moment, $15 trial. So maybe
Yeah, she
that's.
said not to use that one. She didn't think it was a very good one, so I don't know.
I love it. So
Yeah,
I
okay,
think
that's
Karen
good to know,
uses
thank
Yes,
you.
I do.
the Libre. Yeah.
Still a
And
CGM, Marie.
it is a personal thing.
Yeah,
Some
I'll
people
try
love them.
it.
Some
But
people.
she just said, "Oh, I prefer to stay on Dexcom," but there's a new Dexcom that's just come out, so I'm going to do a free trial of that and see how that works.
Fantastic.
For type 2, yeah.
I love
That's
the
why I was
difference.
keeping a diary. My diary hasn't been as extensive as yours. Mine has been numbers and what I ate to make those numbers change. So that's what
But that
I've
was
just
step
been
one
doing.
and it's
then I'm
worked
going
for you.
to expand that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's great. It's got you to where you want to be. I mean, that
Yeah.
huge difference in percentage is phenomenal.
I know. The doctor was just like, wow. So I was
Really
feeling quite
good.
pleased. Yeah.
You should be.
When you
should.
know how it affects you, yes, it's amazing. I don't know how
Mm.
you do it without it because, yes, I think I've relied on it so much. Yes. I'm a
Yeah.
bit obsessive.
Yeah, I don't want to give it up. And at a educating thing I went the other day, workshop all day thing, the speakers were saying, oh, some people get anxious using it. You know, it's
Yeah.
not for everybody. And I thought, wow, I don't
Yeah.
get anxious. I find it really, really helpful. And yeah, like you, Karen, a little bit obsessed, I think, because I'm watching it all the time and writing down numbers. But it's
Yeah.
worked. So that's
It's work for you.
Yeah, yeah. It's good.
It's fantastic.
Mm.
We've come to, God, I was going to say 12 o'clock, but that's Perth time. So it might be 3 p.m. there for you all, or 2 p.m. Is that right?
3.
Yeah.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
2,
Three.
yes.
3 p.m.
Bit behind in the Wild West. But everyone, I really, again, genuinely want to thank you all for participating and offering your words of wisdom and encouragement and your questions. I've got a couple of points down of what I'm going to email Ange to send to you all. So I'll be doing that this afternoon. But yeah, just keep encouraging each other, keep in touch. The more I hear about how you're going, the more it gives me ideas to write material for Circle, for our journeys, for United membership. So that's how I come up with ideas, is knowing what you guys want.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
right. And
Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank
when
you.
Beck gives me those points and bits and pieces to email out to everybody, I'll also attach a copy of that PDF of that habit tracker for you all,
Oh,
so
great.
you have that there.
Thank you.
Yep.
And also you're all obviously members and can access Diabetes Connect, but don't forget, if you do have any questions, anything at all in between these webinars, these ones with Beck are held fortnightly. Some have a topic, some don't have a topic, but they are, you know, even if you have questions that are off the topic, please feel free to join and ask the questions, because there's so many people out there that can't get access to dietitians, or there's, you know, reasons why you can't get in to see a private dietitian. Please use this as a service where you can ask questions, because that's what we're here for, is to help you if you don't have that access, if you live rural, if you can't get an appointment, if it's always booked up. That's what we're here for, is to answer those questions for you. Jump into Diabetes Connect. Both Beck and myself are admins in there, and look after Diabetes Connect. So, you know, more health professional questions I'll shoot to Beck, or Beck will jump in and she'll see them and answer them. So please always ask questions in there. Start your own, you know, up if you're in Diabetes Connect, and up on the top right-hand side, there's a blue create button. And if you drop the little arrow down, there's a discussion thread. So you can actually, that's where you can create your own discussion thread in Diabetes Connect, and either Beck or myself will jump in and give you a response there.
Can I ask, I only got the email about this, I think this morning. Is it just, is an email sent out to tell people when the
Webinars are?
on?
Yeah.
Or how does it
Yep.
work?
So it was, so have you been a member long, Marie?
I was years ago, and then I rejoined probably a month ago.
Recently? Okay, so we have a monthly newsletter that goes out to all of our United members, and so that goes out the first Tuesday of every month, and that will go to your email address.
All right.
So that will have the events listed in
I'll look
there.
out for that. Okay.
The one that you saw, I think you might have, were you the one that emailed me to Diabetes Connect to say you couldn't register, you couldn't
Yeah, the
find?
link
Is that
wouldn't
you?
work. Yeah.
Okay, that's odd, because the link that I sent you,
The second one
for the
worked.
Teams one, yeah, I got that from the post.
I forget what it was saying. Something weird it was saying, but anyway.
Okay,
doesn't matter.
it's really odd.
So
Teams is a little bit quirky. Sometimes we have found, but it's the
I'll
preferred
put them in
option.
my diary when I get that newsletter.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And you can also, I'll just share, just if we have 5 minutes, I'll stop recording and I'll just show you where they will always be in Diabetes Connect, so you can find them. I'll just stop the recording because we don't need this on. So I'll stop that.